And Joe, go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. Hey, come on, Short Church. How you all doing today? Good? Hey, do me a favor, and why don't you give an even larger round of applause for your pastors, Pastor TJ and his wife, Leah. Come on, y'all can do better than that. Come on. Wow. Man, I'm so excited to be here with you guys. I've been a friend of so many people that are on staff here at the Short Church for a long time. Pastor Ty, where's Ty Wynn? Is he here? Just had a baby, 8 days old. When you see Ty, who just told me his last name is not pronounced Nayujan, and then also here's my daughter, if you're interested. Hey, come on, y'all give it up. This is my daughter Grace, right here. She is 17 months old, and I got to tell you, this girl, she loves church, and we just had a student conference. We had just over 2,000 students at our conference last week, and she basically lived there with her mom and I. And man, I got to tell you, you can tell by being in this church the life that is here, by all the young families that are here, by the children that are here. And isn't it great to see what God is doing in the next generation? You know, I've dedicated the last decade of my life. Decade is 10 years, correct? Yes. So I've dedicated the last 10 years of my life to working with young people, and I absolutely believe in what God is doing in this city, in Sarasota, and the young people here. And I'm just so excited to be partnering with a church like the Shore. All right, goodbye, Grace. Bye-bye. But why don't y'all give it up again for everything that God is doing here at the Shore Church. Man, if you're a dad out there, happy Father's Day to you. My dad is here with us. Mark Mateer is one of the pastors on staff. Y'all can give it up for my dad, Mark, who's joining us. And then my wife, Shauna, surprised me. I had no idea they were coming. The onstage thing was not planned. They surprised me by showing up today. But hey, I'm really excited to be here with you all today. And the question that I have for you as we kind of get going down this track is, how many of you all are actually fathers? Where are the dads at that are here? The dads. All right, awesome. I'm a new father as well. And, you know, one of the things that I realized about becoming a father just after our daughter was born is that, you know, when people tell you that they're tired and they don't have kids, I don't know if I believe that statement or not. How many of you all, like, you know what you're talking about? Like, you meet people with no kids and they're like, I'm tired, and you have kids, and you're in your mind are just like, you have no idea what tired is. And now I meet couples with like 2 or 3 kids, and I'm like, I don't know how you're alive right now, right? So come on, how many of y'all, I mean, I feel like 1 kid is more than enough. But one of the things I noticed about becoming a new father is that after Grace was born, you know, we were figuring everything out. Everything is new. And then there's that moment in the evening where she goes to bed, right? And it's like how things used to be, I guess, is how it feels, you know? So the evening comes around, Grace would go to sleep. And I just noticed, man, that I would just start eating anything that would make me feel good. How many of you all, you would sympathize with that, right? Like, the baby goes to bed, and I don't care if it's ice cream, 3-day-old pizza. I'm going to eat anything in sight to feel better because today was exhausting, right? And so what I noticed was that as a new dad, I needed to start taking my health a little bit more seriously, my time in the gym a little bit more seriously. And how many of you all, you enjoy exercise? You're here and you enjoy exercise. Okay, this is like the fit corner over here. But I just have to say that I am not like you, like whatsoever, okay? I know the value in going to the gym. I like going to the gym. But for me, working out is not like an enjoyable process, right? My brother-in-law, who's also my best friend, going to the gym is like his hobby. He loves it. He goes, he works out. He's like, man, this is awesome. I go to the gym, and as soon as I walk in, the first thing I think about is how soon can I leave? How many of you all, like, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like I walk into the gym, and I'm like, this is going to be terrible. And Netflix is at home, so, you know, what am I going to do? But I really don't like going to the gym that much, but I know the value in it, so I go, and if there's one thing that I've learned about working out or about exercising, and most of you would probably sympathize with this or understand this, is that the right music can make or break a workout. How many of you all know what I'm talking about? Okay, so when I go to the gym, these are the headphones that I wear. I brought these with me. My grandmother got these for Christmas for me. I hope I'm 30 years old. I hope I never outgrow gifts from grandma, right? So I get some wireless headphones, and when I go to the gym, I'll put these on, and they go inside of your ear, and I can't hear anything going on around me. All I can hear is the music. And one of the things that I've learned about working out is I don't like working out, but if there's a song that I love that comes on the headphones, it motivates me to work out much harder. How many of you all, you know what I'm talking about? You're in the gym and it's like your jam comes on, and all of a sudden you go from hating to the gym to you're looking in the mirror and saying, I am so athletic and fit, and I'm gonna hit these weights, and I'm gonna change my life today. This song is awesome, right? Music can change the momentum of a workout. But the other thing that I've realized is that the wrong song can actually really kill the momentum of a workout. I have a part-time job teaching boxing lessons here, actually at a gym in Sarasota. And there's a DJ who kind of plays the music when we're teaching these classes. And he one day he was playing this radio station. It was like Fit Radio or something like that, and they're playing that. And all of a sudden, a Christmas carol comes on the radio. And he cannot change the song. And so we're stuck for 3 minutes listening to Jingle Bells, right? And I mean, how many of you all know that workout went from super intense to I think we all just took a break. I was like, it's July, let's just think about Christmas for the next 3 minutes, because I don't know if we can continue. So the reality is that the right music can make a workout awesome. The wrong music can make it terrible. But the reality is, and really what I want to talk to you about today is, in the same way that music can affect the way that we exercise, the right song can make exercising better, the wrong song can make exercising worse. I really believe that just like music affects our workout, that the words that you and I speak and the words that you and I receive can affect our lives in the same way. In other words, I really believe that when the right words are spoken to us and spoken over us, and when we receive the right words, that can set our lives in one trajectory. But I also believe that the wrong words that are spoken to us, and if we receive the wrong words, that can also send our life in a very, very negative and different trajectory. And can I tell you, I don't think I have seen the power of words played out so much in my life as I have over the past 7 years working with young people. And the reality is that I don't think anything affects identity like the words that are spoken to us. I love what Psychology Today says. I want you to listen to this. Psychology Today says this. It says, words are powerful. They can lift us up and beat us down. Words can soothe us or wound us. The old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, is absolutely false, right? And it's not just a biblical concept. It's a concept that scientists and psychologists are realizing as well. Listen to this. This is Psychology Today. Says verbal aggression literally changes the structure of a child's developing brain. Verbal aggression can change the structure of a developing brain. Also, the effect, and listen to this, this is crazy. The effect of verbal aggression is greater than the expression of love. Think about that for a moment. You can tell someone you love them all day long, but if you speak hurtful and wrong words to them, that effect on their life is actually greater than acts of love. And I love how science tends to prove what God has always said. I love this verse out of Proverbs, and this is Proverbs 15:4. It says, listen to this. Gentle words are a tree of life. A deceitful tongue, listen to this, crushes the spirit. Gentle words are a tree of life. A deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. And here's the reality today is I think that no matter where you're at in this room, maybe you're a Christ follower, you've been a Christian your whole life, you've gone to church your whole life, or maybe somebody drug you here today, you've never been to church before, you're like, man, there's a donut wall here, I kind of like that, I don't know about everything else, but I don't know where you find yourself today. Whether you believe in Jesus or not, I think everyone in this room, we all have to agree that words have power. And the words that we speak and the words that we choose to speak to others have a much more significant effect than we often realize. And I think that as I was planning this message, there's really two parts to this. And one is the words that we speak to other people. But I really don't believe that we can address the words that we speak until we learn to receive the right words in our own life. Because some of us have had some things spoken to us and spoken over us that have really set up our lives in some negative ways and have really had a negative impact on our identity. And so what I want to talk to you about today is how you and I can receive the right words in our lives and how you and I can let the words that we shouldn't be listening to out of our lives. And what I believe today is that no matter where you're at, you can leave this place a changed person, because I believe we're going to learn to hear the words that God wants us to hear, and we're going to learn to let the words that He doesn't want us to hear to go in one ear and out the other. So I'm super excited about this, and I really have just 3 points for you today. And if you're taking notes, here's the first point that you can write down when it comes to receiving the right words. Is simply this: choose. Yes, words have power, but also choose, don't shuffle. Choose, don't shuffle. Now, here's what I mean by that. When I go to the gym and I'm listening to the right music, to the music in my headphones, if I'm listening to Pandora or Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, if I choose to shuffle the songs, then I am letting that program tell me what songs I need to listen to. I'm basically letting Spotify tell me, hey, you should listen to this song or you should listen to this song. So I'm leaving it up to somebody else to play the music that I want to hear. But if I go to the gym and I choose the song that I want to hear, I know the kind of music I need to hear. I know my favorite songs. I know my favorite bands. If I choose the music I want to hear, then I'm in control of that situation. I believe the exact same thing works with the words that you and I receive. You see, I believe that so many of us, we go through life and we let everything that everybody says to us have a piece of our soul. And I honestly believe that we go through life and we're shuffling the voices that are in our lives. We're shuffling the voices that people are speaking over us. And if we're honest, we've let some voices, some things that people have said to us or spoken to us, really get in our heart. When the reality is, what we have to learn to do is to choose the voices we listen to, not shuffle the voices. And here's why this is so key. And here's what I've seen over and over again as a guy who's worked with hundreds and thousands of young people in my time in ministry, is simply this: even people who genuinely love you can sometimes say things to you that you shouldn't be receiving. Some of you have experienced someone who genuinely loves you, but they've spoken something to you that's hurtful. Maybe you've had a parent tell you that you're stupid, that you'll never amount to anything. Maybe you've had a teacher or a coach or somebody that you really respect speak something to you, and you've let a comment turn into your identity. And honestly, I've heard this so many times, and the reality is what we often do is we just allow anything that anybody says to us to have more of an impact on our lives than we should. Listen to this verse out of Proverbs 24, 4-7. It says, through knowledge, its rooms are filled with all sorts of precious riches and valuables. So don't go to war without wise guidance. Victory depends on having many advisors. The wise are mightier than the strong, and those with knowledge go stronger and stronger. Wisdom is too lofty for fools. Among leaders at the city gate, they have nothing to say. You know what this verse is saying? It's saying that we need to choose the right people to listen to. That there are people in our lives, I love how it says, do not go to war without many advisors. The Bible is saying there are people in our lives that we should be listening to, and then there are some fools up in our lives. How many of you got some fools in your life, right? If it's your neighbor, don't raise your hand, right? Okay, but there are some fools in your life that we should not be listening to. You know, I remember this one time, I think I was in 11th grade, and my parents had a little dog. It was a Shih Tzu. Anybody ever had a Shih Tzu before? His name was Biscuit, right? Because it was white and brown. Biscuit was the name of this dog. We had this Shih Tzu, and I think I was 9 years old when we got it, and so we'd had the dog like for a long time. And the dog would always sleep in my sister's bedroom, right? So the dog would go to my sister's bedroom, and it would go to sleep on her bed. And so I would go in to her bedroom, and I'd be like, hey, you know what? Good night, Caroline. And I would always, like, I'd say goodnight to that little Shih Tzu, right? So I go in there one night, and I go up to my sister's bed. I'm like, you know, good night, Caroline. And I go to give Biscuit a hug, right? Little Biscuit, who I've known my whole life. And little Biscuit, on that day, decides to jump off the bed and just latch on to my face, right? I mean, the dog jumps up, bites my face. I mean, doesn't just, like, bite like nips. I mean, that thing was, like, hanging onto my face. I mean, I couldn't believe it, right? Not what I was expecting at 9 o'clock at night, okay? So the Shih Tzu bites my face, then I'm like, what just happened, right? So I go to bed, I wake up the next day, I go to school, and I've got this big mark on my face. Now I go to class, and we're sitting there in class, and we're going through our notes and everything, and the teacher looks at me, he goes, hey, Joe. I go, yeah, what's going on? He goes, what happened to your face? And I was like, oh, man, I'm like, well, my dog bit me last night. And everybody starts laughing, and I'm kind of laughing with them, one of the situations where it's like, yeah, I'm just going to laugh with you guys, even though you're laughing at me, right? And then the teacher goes, he stops everything, he looks at me, he goes, Joe, you're the kind of boy that only a mother could love. And I remember just sitting there, he's like, anybody who has their own dog bite them, the kind of person only a mother could love. Now, I had that teacher in my life for years. And of all the conversations we ever had, guess what statement I remember? The one I just shared with you. And the reality is, what happened to me is that as time went on, I thought to myself, as life went on, I thought, man, am I really the kind of person that only a mother could love? I think he was just joking with me, but is there any truth to that? And the reality is that I was letting a voice into my life and into my soul that should not be there. And some of us, we've had similar situations. We've had people speak to us or say things to us, and what somebody meant as a comment, the enemy is using to make an identity and to mess with who you really are. And I think what you and I need to learn to do is we need to learn to choose the voice in our lives, not shuffle the voice in our lives. And I want to just give you a really quick key to this, and that is that those voices and those people that are speaking the right words to us, those voices, you and I are responsible for finding those. I love that it's small group weekend here. It's the last weekend to sign up for small groups. And I just got to say that oftentimes getting the right people in your life that are going to speak godly truths to you, that is our job. And what we need to do is we need to learn to get into relationships and surround ourselves with the right people. And I just want to encourage you, if you're not in a small group, I have to say this, that joining a small group and leading a small group changed my life forever. I met my wife in a small group. I remember feeling like I was called to ministry in a small group. I mean, getting around people when it's not just someone talking and you listening, but getting in a place where you can have conversations about what Jesus is doing. I mean, you guys are going to leave here today and you're going to have some questions like, I didn't understand what that guy was talking about. He had some funny jokes, but I need some more clarity on this. A small group is a great place for you to find that. But you and I have to learn to get in environments where we can start to choose the right verses for our life. If you're not in a small group, I just want to encourage you to definitely join a small group today. So once we've decided that we're going to choose the voices in our life and not shuffle, the second thing we have to do is we have to turn up the volume. We need to turn up the volume. Just like when I'm working out and my song comes on, my jam comes on, I turn that bad boy all the way up, right? Sometimes I'm at the gym and the song comes on and I just want to tell the gym person to turn it up all the way because I love this song. And the reality is when you and I find the right voices, people that are speaking godly truths into our lives, you and I have to learn to turn the volume all the way up. I remember one time I got this new job. How many of you all have ever, you remember your first day on your current job? How many of you all remember that? Okay, or you've had a job. Some of you, a lot of millennials in here still not working, living with your parents. I don't know. But you had a first job. Okay, so I remember this one day, my first job out of college, right? My first day on the job. I was so excited. I have a college degree. I'm a professional. I remember I had one suit. It was the suit that I got married in, right? So I wore that suit. I show up for this job, and I remember as I'm walking into the office, I remember sitting there, and I had never had a conversation with this guy I would be working with. And he was kind of going to be a guy that I'd be working with a lot. And he looks at me, he goes, you know what, Joe? He's like, everybody just needs a trial marriage. And he's like, everybody just needs one marriage just to be like, yeah, whatever. And then, after that, he goes, you know what? He's like, so many of us here have been married twice. He goes, the first marriage is always just a trial. Just see if it works or don't see if it works. And I remember sitting there in that moment and thinking to myself, this is not a voice that I need to allow to speak into my life. But I have to be around this person a lot. How many of you found yourself in a situation like that? So what I have to learn to do is I have to learn to turn up the volume of the voices in my life that are going to be giving me godly advice. And some of you may be like, well, how do I determine which voice to listen to and which voice to turn up? And I've got a very simple filter that you can use, a very simple filter, and that's this, does that voice point you back to Jesus? Have you ever sat down with someone and opened up with them and you're like, man, here's some of the things I'm struggling with, some of the things I'm going to, and it's like they make the conversation about themselves. Oh, you've been through this. Well, I've been through this, or you tell them something and they end up just making the whole conversation about how bad of a person you are or things like that. I mean, have you ever found yourself in a situation like that? I mean, many of you may have people in your life that are talking to you like that. The reality is that we need to get around people that when we are doing life with them, those conversations are pointing us back to Jesus. When we're talking about the things that we're going through, the things that we're struggling with, the people that we're talking to, they're helping us not see us and see our problems, but they're helping us see Jesus. I love this verse in Colossians. It says this, it says, let the message about Christ in all its richness fill. I love that word, fill your lives. And here's this next part. Here it is. Ready? Teach and counsel each other with all the wisdom that he gives. It says, sing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs to God with thankful hearts. Here it is. And whatever you do, or here's the word, say, whatever you do or say, do it as a representative of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks through him to God the Father. I just want to leave this up here for just a moment. I love this part of the verse. It says, whatever you do or say, do it as a representative of the Lord Jesus. Man, you and I need to have people in our lives, and you and I need to be people that when we're counseling people, when we're hanging out with people, our coworkers, our family, our friends, that our conversations, the thing that we're saying, are building them up and not tearing them down. And we need to make sure that the people that we're letting speak into our lives, that they are saying things that are pointing us back to Jesus. Because oftentimes, listen, we can't always control the people that we are around, but we can control how we let them affect our souls. And the reality is that we need to turn up the volume and we need to choose the right voices instead of shuffling those voices. And then the final and last thing that we need to do is when we have the right voices and we've turned up the volume, we need to put his voice on repeat. We need to put the voice on repeat. I think about this. How many of you have a favorite song maybe, right? I remember one time I was in the gym and I heard this song and I'd never heard it before, but I was like, man, this song is amazing. And I took out my phone and I put that song on repeat. And I probably listened to that song like all day that day, all day the next day. I went home, I'm brushing my teeth, I'm listening to that song, right? Like I get a song that I really like and I put that song on repeat. And the reality is that when you and I, when we choose the voices in our lives and we don't shuffle, we turn up the volumes on the right voices. The other thing and the final thing we have to do is we need to put the voice on repeat. And the reality is this, and here's, and this is really something, and it was kind of this final point that I was really passionate about sharing with you guys today. And I deal with this all the time as somebody that works with people. And here's what I want you to know, and I want to pastor you for a second. And I want to teach you something about Satan, right? And here's the reality. If you're here and you're a Christian, you believe that we have a spiritual enemy. The reality is that the enemy has really no new tricks to use on your life. And here's what I mean by that, is the enemy has no new ways of messing up God's plan in your life. But what he does is he brings up the same old stuff over and over and over again. That's why that moment in your life where you felt most like a failure, you think about that often, right? Like there are things that you've experienced or things that people have said to you, and what the enemy wants to do is he wants to bring up the same thing in your life over and over and over again. And really what Satan ultimately wants to do is he wants us to live lives where we have the wrong voices on repeat inside of our minds. So that when you go and you decide that you're going to live a life of purpose and you're going to live, you're going to be the man or the woman that God's called you to be, or you're going to get involved, or you're going to take better care of your kids, or you're going to reach out to the people at your work, that when you go and try to do those things, that little voice of insignificance, it's right there in your mind. That little voice of insecurity, it's right there. And I could do an experiment with all of you. It's easy to think the negative things about yourself more than it is the positive things about yourself, isn't it? Like when you're alone by yourself at night and you put your head on your pillow, it's much easier for you to bring to mind the things that you don't like about yourself than it is the things that you like about yourself. And that is exactly how the enemy wants to work in our life, because he has a voice that he wants to put on repeat. He has the voice of insignificance, the voice of insecurity, the voice of fear, the voice of failure. I don't know what it is for you, but what I do know is that the enemy wants to put that voice on repeat, because if he can make you believe a lie about yourself, it'll change everything about your life. But the thing that I love is if you're here and you feel like you're in that circumstance. Maybe a teacher said something to you like that teacher said to me, you're the kind of boy only a mother could love. And sometimes when I do things and I feel unloved, I hear that teacher sitting there having that conversation with me. And maybe you're here and you're like that today. And I just want to tell you that if that's true, that you're in great company. Because one of the guys who wrote most of the New Testament, his name was Paul, he had a very, very similar story. And he teaches us how to deal with that. And I want to read you this verse. It's one of my favorite verses in the entire Bible. This is 2 Corinthians 12, 7 through 10. Listen to this. This is the Apostle Paul. And so he's setting up what he's doing with his life, but then he talks about how the enemy wants to knock him off of his plan. I want you to pay close attention here. Here it is. It says, even though I have received such wonderful revelations from God. Right? So he's writing about all the things that God is teaching him, and he's writing these things out. And if you've got your Bible app or your physical Bible with you, you're reading the revelations that Paul is talking about, right? Listen to this. So to keep me from becoming proud, I was given a thorn in my flesh. Listen to this part. A messenger from Satan to torment me and keep me from becoming proud. A messenger from Satan to torment me and keep me from becoming proud. Listen to this next part. I've never seen this before. Listen to this. 3 different times I begged the Lord to take it away. And I love this. Each time, pay attention here, he said, my grace is all you need. My power works best in weakness. So now I am glad to boast about my weaknesses so that the power of Christ can work through me. It says this. It says, that is why I take pleasure in my weaknesses and in the insults, hardships, persecutions, and trouble that I suffer for Christ. For when I am weak, then I am strong. You see what Paul is saying here, right? You know, what you may not know about Paul is before he met Jesus, he spent a lot of his life killing and imprisoning Christians. So maybe you're here, I don't know, but I'm going to make an assumption that none of you are here and you've spent most of your life killing Christians, right? If you are here today and God has changed your life, that is amazing, right? But the Apostle Paul, that was his life. You know what I love about the Bible is the Bible doesn't say what that messenger from Satan was saying to Paul every time it came, but it did say that it was coming to Paul over and over again. And what you see is happening is the enemy is trying to loop something in Paul's mind. The enemy is putting something in Paul's mind that he wants to have on repeat. So Paul's saying, look, even though I have all these revelations from God, there's a voice in my mind from the enemy that is a thorn in my flesh. And then I love what he says. He says, each time I ask God to take it away. Paul says 3 different times. So he's saying, look, every time the enemy puts that voice on repeat, I go to Jesus and beg him to take away. And then I love what he says. Let's go back once. Let's just go back one slide. He says this, 3 different times I begged the Lord to take it away. Listen to this. Each time he said, my grace is all you need. My power works best in weakness. You know what I realized? Is that Jesus didn't change his answer every time Paul went to him. But the reality is that each time that Paul went to Jesus and begged him to take care of it, what did it say? It says that there's another voice that's on repeat. And every time that Paul goes to pray, it says that the voice of Jesus said the exact same thing to Paul. It says, my grace is all you need. My power works best in weakness. And I got to tell you, if you're here today, I don't know what the enemy has put on repeat in your life, but I'm here to tell you that you need to put the voice of Jesus on repeat in your life. And you know, for me personally, I think about my own life. I've gone through so many seasons, and I've not spent my whole life as a Christian, so there are some poor decisions that I've made. I've got fears and insecurities just like you. Just because I have a mic doesn't mean that I'm not dealing with things as well. And there are so many moments where I go to do something or I'm like, man, I'm going to go, and I feel like God's calling me to do this, or I'm going to make a decision, and there's this little voice in my mind that's reminding me of all the things that I've done wrong, of all the mistakes that I've made. But the reality is this, is that I've learned to listen to another voice in my life. And there's another voice in my life that's on repeat. And that voice says that my grace is all you need. My power is made best in your weakness. And some of us in here today, we need to learn to let the voice of failure, the voice of insecurity, those things may never ever go away, but you and I have a greater voice, a voice that is beyond that, the voice of Jesus that speaks into our lives and says, my grace is sufficient for you. You know, the reality is that you may be in here and you may be dealing with some things, and you feel like you're always thinking about it, you're always going through it. And I just want to tell you this, is that though those voices may always be there, the voice of insecurity, the voice of fear, can I just tell you there is a greater voice, a voice that drives out fear, a voice that pushes back insecurity. There is a voice that can give you guys confidence to get up and do the things that God's called us to do and be the person that God's called us to be. And it's the voice of Jesus. And we just have to, every time the enemy comes and puts something on loop in our minds, we've got to learn to put another voice on repeat. We've got to learn that no matter what it is that the enemy's going to hit me with today, that I've got another voice in my life that's the voice of Jesus. And Jesus is telling me that my grace is all you need and my power is made perfect in weakness. Let me pray with you all for just a moment. If everyone could bow your heads and close your eyes just for a moment. God, I pray over every person that's here. God, I pray that as we leave this place, God, I pray that we will learn to choose the voices in our lives, not to just let any voice that comes along speak into our souls. God, I pray that as we identify those voices, that we'll learn to turn those voices up in our life. And Jesus, I pray ultimately that we will put your voice on repeat. And now if you're here, what I want to do is just with everyone leaving your heads bowed and your eyes closed, is I want to give some of you the opportunity to make Jesus Christ your personal Lord and Savior. For the first time or for the first time in a long time, you know, knowing Jesus, this entire experience is not just about a guy with a mic or music or the seat you're sitting in. This experience is so that you can encounter a loving God, a God that's not angry with you, a God who's not out to get you, but a God who loves you more than you and I can comprehend. He loves you so much that he actually sent his son to die for you so that you and I could have a relationship with him. And if that's you and you're here and you've never made that decision to follow Jesus before, I just simply want you to slip your hand up and put it right back down. Just say, yes, that's me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, if you just raised your hand, or even if you wanted to raise your hand, I'm going to say a prayer out loud, and I want you to repeat this prayer with me in your hearts. God, I love you, and I thank you that you sent your one and only Son, Jesus, to die on a cross for me. And I thank you that when Jesus died for me, that he took the punishment for everything I've done wrong and for everything I'm ever going to do wrong. And in that moment, he opened up a way for for me to have a relationship with you. Jesus, I love you. Come live inside of me and give me the strength to live for you. In Jesus' name. And everybody said, amen. I love you guys so much.
Thank you so much for joining us online today. If you prayed that prayer with us, we would like to help you on your spiritual journey. If you don't mind going to theshorechurch.com or emailing us at hello@theshorechurch.com, we can send you some information to start this spiritual journey of faith. And of course, we'd always love to see you in person at The Shore Church, 3375 Fruitville Road.